Captain Marcus Kane had seen plenty of strange things during his 15 years patrolling the Outer Rim territories, but nothing quite prepared him for the scene unfolding. Before him on the trading station, orbiting Kepler 442b, the security alert had come in routine enough: disturbance in the civilian quarters, possible domestic dispute. Kane had expected the usual drama between traders, miners, or colonists blowing off steam after months in deep space. Instead, he found himself staring at a young Valerian female clutching a child who couldn't have been more than 3 cycles old. The woman was tall and graceful, typical of her species, with the characteristic silver-blue skin and large, luminous eyes that seemed to hold entire galaxies within them. Her clothing was torn and dirty, suggesting she'd been running for some time. But it was the child that caught Kane's attention. The little one was clearly half-human. While she had her mother's silver-tinted skin, her features were softer, more rounded, and her eyes held that unmistakable spark of human curiosity. She peered at Kane from behind her mother's protective embrace, tiny fingers gripping a stuffed creature that looked like a cross between a Earth teddy bear and a Centaurian cloudhopper. "Please," the woman said in heavily accented Standard, her voice trembling with exhaustion and fear. "They find us soon. Need safe place." Kane raised his hand slowly, showing he meant no harm. "Who's looking for you?" "I'm Captain Kane, Station Security. You're safe here." The woman's eyes darted nervously around the corridor. Before she could answer, the child suddenly broke free from her mother's grip and toddled directly toward Kane. The captain knelt down. Instinctively, as the little girl approached, her chubby arms outstretched. "Papa!" she declared with the absolute certainty that only a 3-year-old could muster, launching herself into Kane's arms. The effect was instantaneous. The mother froze completely, her face cycling through shock, confusion, and something that might have been hope. Kane caught the child automatically, his military training kicking in even as his mind reeled from the unexpected declaration. "I'm sorry," the mother whispered, reaching for her daughter. "She doesn't understand. Her father, he was human like you." She sees the uniform, the face, and thinks. Kane looked down at the child, now settled comfortably in his arms, playing with one of the insignia on his jacket. What happened to him? The woman's expression darkened. "Killed by the consortium. They say human Valerian unions are illegal. Children are abomination. They hunt us." The pieces began falling into place. The Hegemony Consortium had been expanding their influence in this sector, imposing their rigid species purity laws wherever they gained control. Mixed families were often the first targets, their children viewed as genetic contamination that needed to be eliminated. "How long have you been running?" Kane asked, standing slowly while still holding the child. 8 months, she replied. "Ever since they came to New Valeria. My husband, he stayed behind to give us time to escape. I promised him I would keep Luna safe." Kane looked down at the little girl, who had now decided his badge was the most interesting thing in the universe. Luna. The name suited her somehow, with her bright eyes and infectious giggle. "Captain Kane to bridge," he said, activating his unit. "I need a priority secure channel to Admiral Chun at Fleet Command." Within minutes, Kane was explaining the situation to his superior. The Admiral listened without interruption, his weathered face growing more serious as the details emerged. "Captain, you're asking me to authorize asylum for refugees from the Sovereign System," the Admiral said finally. "The Consortium will call it an act of war." "With respect, sir, they're already at war with anyone who doesn't fit their definition of genetic purity. This child is a Federation citizen by virtue of her human heritage. We have a duty to protect her." Luna chose that moment to look up at Kane and smile, babbling something in a mixture of Valerian and broken Standard that roughly translated to "Papa stay." The Admiral's expression softened slightly. "And the mother?" She's seeking asylum. Her husband died protecting Federation values. The least we can do is honor his sacrifice. There was a long pause. Finally, the Admiral nodded. Granted. But Kane, this opens a dangerous precedent. The Consortium won't let this slide. Then maybe. It's time someone stood up to them, sir. The next few hours were a blur of paperwork, medical examinations, and temporary quarters assignments. Kane found himself reluctant to leave Luna and her mother Vera, as he learned her name was. The child had maintained her conviction that he was her papa, and despite Vera's attempts to correct her, Luna remained stubbornly attached to the human captain. She's never done this before, Vera explained as they sat in the station's small park area, watching Luna play with other children. Even with human males we've met during our journey. There's something about you. Kane watched the little girl attempt to teach a young Centaurian boy how to hug her stuffed toy properly. Maybe she just needs stability, a sense of safety. Or maybe she knows something we don't, Vera said quietly. Valerian children are often more perceptive than adults give them credit for. As if summoned by their conversation, Luna came running. Over, climbing onto Kane's lap with the casual presumption of a child who had decided this adult belonged to her. "Papa, we stay here?" she asked, looking up at him with those impossibly large eyes. Kane felt something shift in his chest, a protective instinct he'd never experienced before. "Yeah, sweetheart. You can stay here as long as you need to." Over the following weeks, Kane found himself spending more and more time with Vera and Luna. What started as security check-ins evolved into meals together, walks through the station, and bedtime stories read in a mixture of languages Luna seemed to understand perfectly. The Consortium made their displeasure known through official diplomatic channels, but the Federation held firm. More mixed families began arriving at the station, word having spread through underground networks that there was a place where they could find sanctuary. Kane realized he'd become more than just a security officer. He'd become a symbol of resistance against tyranny, a guardian for those who had nowhere else to turn. And at the center of it all was a little girl who had looked at a stranger and decided he was exactly what she needed. Standing on the observation deck one evening, watching Luna play with other refugee children while their parents worked to build new lives, Kane understood that some bonds transcend biology. Sometimes family isn't about blood or species or genetics. Sometimes it's about a little girl who points at you and says, "Pa," with such conviction that the universe reshapes itself around that simple truth.